robust audience this evening as well. The first order of business is the minutes for the March 25th work session. I would entertain a motion of approval for those minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes of March 25th.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes will stand approved as written. Thank you, Lisa. Monthly reports. Monthly reports are coming in. Everything should be due in by the end of this week. So those few individuals that haven't gotten theirs in, that might be sitting around the table, we have until Friday. There are no public hearings this evening. We do have a couple of guests, so Kaz, we'll start with our first guest, Jennifer.
Thank you, Tony. Jennifer Krohn came to me requesting permission to conduct a 5K race. She represents the Southeast Bible Baptist Church. They have done this for a few years now, and poor Jennifer was the one that was cast in the role of being the coordinator of the race this year. So she came to us and asked for information about the process, and I gave that to her. And as a result, she's here tonight just to give you an idea of what she's proposing and when it's going to take place.
Okay. Excellent. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi. So like I said, it's our Race for Nancy. It's a 5K fundraiser that we hold to support our Nancy Hecker Memorial Fund for our Christian school to help kids attend. And it's going to be held on June 6th as a Saturday, the first Saturday in June. And it'll take about, I don't know, from 9 to 10:30, depending when people finish the race. And if you'll notice on the map, it does go on 250, which Jim mentioned might be a problem, but in the past 2 years, we've had a police car come and block off the road to make sure that it was safe for people to go there. That's just when they start the race. I don't know if you can look at the thing, but they're going to turn right out of our parking lot, and so they'll be on 250 for a little bit until they reach Sweets Corner, and there's no sidewalk there, so we're going to have the police block off that side. But then when they're done doing the race, on their way back, on 250 on that side, there is a sidewalk. So they can just run on the sidewalk along there, and that should be fine. That's what we've done the last couple of years. Also, we're planning to have a nurse there just in case there's any issues with that. But I don't know, do you guys have any other questions? I'm not sure what.
You mentioned the nurse. Have you been in contact with Penfield Ambulance at all? Have you
I have
used
not.
them in the past?
We have nurses who go to our church. I was
Okay.
going to ask one of them to volunteer.
Okay.
I think it would be also helpful though to make the ambulance aware that you're having the race. I think they probably will through the public.
Right, and for no other reason than in the event the ambulance does have to get to the 250-441 area at that particular time, that is their main thoroughfare. So
Okay.
I just wanted.
We're not
you
actually
to be
touching
aware.
441.
Well, but 250.
Okay, yeah.
So they travel south on 250. Like Paul said, just a heads up if
Okay,
nothing
give 'em a
else.
call.
Let them know.
Sure.
Anything new or different than years past? Same route?
Nope,
Same
everything's the
number
same.
of people anticipated?
Yeah,
Maybe a little bit
unfortunately.
more,
Hoping to
maybe a
grow
little
it,
more?
but yes.
Same time of day? And
Yep. And we have insurance too. I didn't know if you guys needed proof of insurance, but I can get that too if you need it, in case anything happens.
Jennifer, what were the numbers that you've been pulling as far as the number of participants?
Last year we had 65.
Okay.
And you're hoping for 75 to 100.
Yes.
Okay. Any permits required from the state DOT, Kaz?
No, we will make the, I know they're working with the sheriff's department, we'll also make them aware of it just in case.
Okay.
Something falls through the cracks. And also, we'll probably call the ambulance corps as well.
And the fire department,
Yeah.
so that just emergency services are aware of what's going on.
Exactly.
And last year you went through the neighborhood as you're doing
Yes.
again this year,
Yep.
and
Same exact.
no concerns, no problems from any of the neighbors that
Nope.
that came up as a result of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we practice along that route too with our kids, and everyone seems to be fine. They wave at us, so.
Oh, great, excellent. All right, very good. Board, other questions, comments?
Good luck.
All right,
Sounds good.
staff, anything that you?
We'll just follow up and work with her to get everybody online and make sure everything's safe and
Okay.
functional for her.
Okay.
All right,
Great,
then.
good luck. Hopefully you increase your numbers by 10%.
Hopefully, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to our next set of guests and would invite them to the table. Commander, welcome. And Mark Valentine, if you would kick us off, please. Thank you, Gus.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The VFW requested an audience with the town board tonight to talk about their property off of Old Penfield Road, actually Penfield Road, not place, excuse me. There was an old right-of-way that was a portion of Washington Street years ago before 441 was there. In the research of that, and you can kind of see it on the map there as you have the loop around that loops you back over. But there is a little stub piece that was Washington Street back in the day that their property actually stubbed off of. And maybe it's easier to kind of stand up here and point at it.
Trying to get everybody here. Sorry.
I can stand this way. So Penfield Road's here, 441's here. This used to be Washington Street here as it connected across. Now it comes into Chinning Filbert Park. That end there was cut off by 441. The road came up here, moved back around. So the state DOT basically abandoned it back to the county. The county abandoned it back to Penfield. This is basically the right-of-way that we have here. So the VFW came to us several months ago and asked us, American Legion, thank you, sir. Came back to us several months ago and said, what's up with this piece here? It hasn't been maintained by the town. We looked at it, we talked about it, and said, it's similar to other driveway aprons that, it's in the right-of-way, but it's owned and maintained by the individual property owner. So at the time, the town engineer made a determination that this was basically their driveway apron out to Penfield Road, and therefore it was their ownership or their responsibility for maintenance. I can turn it over to the group here, but I think they have some concerns about the condition of that. It hasn't been maintained in many years. I did take some photographs here, but I thought the aerial photo at least kind of gives us some
Yep, okay.
reference points to
I'm going
talk
to
to.
let Ken Andrews, since he has been involved in this from the very beginning, I'm going to let him do the speaking for the...
Okay, Rick is our commander, and I'm the adjutant. The adjutant is like a secretary for the group. We have, it's an American Legion Post 1229 named after the Bremen brothers, both of whom were killed in action in France in about 60 miles northeast of Paris, and both within 3 months of each other in 1918. We have 100 members, stretching from World War II veterans to the most recent conflicts. John Brown is in our group, was a survivor of the Battle of the Bulge, and Don Osborne was wounded at the Siegfried Line in Germany. Other members have served in Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and other trouble spots throughout the world. They're all productive members of the community who meet monthly to share their experience and promote patriotism. I have concerns, first of all, with the agenda. We've already mentioned that actually we are American Legion, not VFW. There used to be a VFW in Penfield, which has disbanded.
Right. 820, if I recall.
And
You're right.
Right.
but we are very active. I said we have 100 active members. And we have a difficult time with, on the agenda, it said right-of-way abandonment, and to us, that's a road. I live on Baird Road, and if you abandon part of Baird Road to me, I'd be in trouble to take care of it, okay? I want to give you a little history of how we got to this point. On September 15th, I first inquired about the deteriorating condition of the road. I asked Mr. Valentine if the town realized the poor condition and how it might cause accidents. We have, as I said, 100 members. I'm about to be 70 years old. I'm younger than 80% of our membership. Okay, we've grown thanks to Mr. Kyer. We've grown over the last couple of years, but we still are not attracting the young members like we would like to. There's so many things they can be involved in. At that time, I also mentioned that we had, some of the older members had said, well, we used to own land across 441. Whatever happened to that? Okay, and he answered that question. He was very, well, he didn't answer right away, but he looked into it and he answered, okay? So he said he'd get back to me, but when I went back to see him on the second time, in October, he said he could surely tell me that it had been abandoned by the state to the county and the county to the town back in 1973. And he was sure then that we had no property in Linear Park or anything like that. He said he'd get back to me with an update on what we were going to do about the situation. Because again, I'm concerned about people driving in there. Not only we have members driving in there, but we have the clothing drop-off, that we raise funds to help veterans who are homeless and in trouble, and people are driving in there during the day. In December, I went back to see Mark at the town hall, and at that time I met with James Fletcher and a third man, and I don't know his name, perhaps Mark can fill you in on that. But they said based upon what they had found out, that they thought they would abandon it to us. I voiced my objection at the time, and Mr. Fletcher actually spoke up and said he did not agree with the decision and supported my perspective on it. The basic problem I have is we don't have the money to take care of a road like that. Our post in Monroe County in the past year, 5 American Legion posts have closed, and we're working really hard to keep this one open. We don't have a huge amount of money to invest in repair, which it needs repair, or to take it over, simply because we couldn't even afford to mow the grass as it's now taken care of along the side of it. On February 23rd, I went back to see Mark, and Rick Goff went with me to see what the progress had been done, and at that point he mentioned that he was going to suggest that it be abandoned to us, okay? And I said, I really would like to meet with you to tell you what our objections are. Well, we asked Ed, help me the last name.
Summerhays.
Ed Summerhays to come out and take a look at our boundary lines, and we're going to do a full survey of the area. But I said for this meeting, at least find out where our boundaries are, because we didn't know where our posts were and that sort of thing. So he made a brief map. I have a copy, and I've outlined where our area is and where the road is. And the pink outlines our property, the green is where the road is. I put a little blue on there because I wanted to bring up
Just give us a minute, let us get the map so that as we're looking at the colors, we can relate to your, so that we're all sitting on the, okay, so, sorry Ken, but
No, that's fine.
we'll get
I tend to
Andy.
talk too fast.
We'll get Andy.
Those two guys at the end were in my classes, they know I talk too fast.
So, were they good students?
Of course.
Oh, sure,
I'll
they were
answer that.
top.
That was in the
Any
class.
higher. Okay.
All right,
Well,
now I think we're all on
Okay.
the same sheet of music, if you will, so.
On the map.
Yep,
The pink is the outline of our property according to Ed's perspective a couple days ago. And by the way, I do have one with a larger one with a raised seal that I could give to you so you
Okay.
can see it's official.
Now,
It's
this is-
not an official survey, but it's an official designation of where the lines for our edge of our property are.
okay,
And the green is where the road is. Now, I put the blue in there arbitrarily because I wanted to let you know that there's a street called St. Margaret's Way that comes out of that apartment.
Right,
And so
right,
we
yeah.
aren't the only people who live off of this road. If you were to decide that it belonged to somebody, how much would be our responsibility? How much would be theirs? I'm sure we'd want 99% to be theirs, and they'd feel the same about us. But that presents a problem. And along with, I hope I don't offend anybody, but whoever designed that turn-in from up the hill down in, well, I question the decision to make a turn like that, because it's very difficult coming down that hill to make that turn. You lose grade, it's like driving in San Francisco.
Sure.
So
So some of what we were both faced with
Yep.
is some of the sins of the past that our friends from the state of New York left us
Absolutely.
as they put 441 in and bisected the property. As you said, that I'm sure without knowing all the details and the hoops that Mr. Valentine might have gone through, but I'm guessing that it probably was not an easy a process to go through. They probably condemned some property in order to get the right-of-way for Route 441, and they left us with what they left us. And it doesn't come as a surprise to me that the state passed it to the county, and then the county passed it to the town, and then we're here talking tonight, so.
Yeah, and I understand how that might work. I just find us to be on the wrong end of it.
Yeah.
For our post, our problems are our post couldn't afford even the insurance liability this would add to us, let alone the maintenance. You're looking at the most able-bodied group of our bunch, okay? And it's, we just couldn't get it done. And we couldn't afford to get it done professionally. So basically what would happen if we were to have ownership of that is, it would just continue to run down until it was condemned or we had a bad accident or something like that. And most likely, if we had to take care of it, we couldn't afford it out of our budget. We would cease to exist. We'd be closing up shop. I just want to let you know that any of you are invited to our meetings, they're not closed meetings, and you might find it interesting to see the collection and the ideas and what our thrust is. You know, we're dedicated to doing whatever we can to promote patriotism and good values. We sponsor the Boys State and Girls State, and one of our Girls State nominee from last year just got accepted at West Point. So that we feel very involved. We have a collection of people who were willing to risk their lives for this country and then came back to invest their lives in this community. And we would like you to consider reversing that decision.
Okay.
What maintenance have we done on the road, if any, in the last 3 to 5 to 10 years? Have we?
Based on the photos and discussions with Fletcher, he didn't remember doing anything, and see, he just retired after 30 years, so I doubt we've done anything on the road.
I would guess that
10
that's
plus
right.
or more, so.
I would guess the only work that really has been done on that road might be more towards the intersection of Panorama Trail and Penfield Road, because I think when I think it was a combination of Home Depot. I think the town had requested Home Depot to do some work at that intersection. And then the county of Monroe, I think, did a little piece which probably extended up to about the Bill Gray location. And I would say that from roughly Bill Gray's all the way back right up to 441 and including the little teardrop, I'll call it the teardrop, I'm guessing that there has essentially been nothing done in 30 plus years. Is what I would speculate.
They'll fill in an occasional pothole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, Commander. That's about the extent of it. And for a while, if I recall correctly, for a while, we would fill it in for the county because at one point for a period of time, you know, as it went from state to county, then the county would hire our services to do some patching. And now that it's the town, my guess is that all we've done is the occasional pothole patching.
In your parking lot, all that, you must have resurfaced it sometime, no? I mean, you know,
Our parking lot's in better shape than the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't tell you when we
you don't
did
think
it.
it would have all happened at once, you know, fixing, no? It would have.
In fact, our right-of-way, you can see on the map where the right-of-way is, that's all smooth, right until you get to the, And I started this problem by going to ask him what could be done about that road.
Right.
Okay, I initiated the contact.
This is their.
Does your plow person just plow this when they come in? Do you have someone who plows your parking lot?
He does our parking lot.
Yeah, I think
He's a member of our,
Starts and,
I think he starts right about here.
Near St. Margaret's.
okay.
Does he start at St. Margaret's?
Almost there, yeah.
Almost there, pushing it in?
I'm just wondering how it gets plowed.
well, I guess he does it. He's one of our members who got a plow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we have to plow because, we rent the facility for
Sure,
weekend
yeah.
for parties.
Yeah.
No, I know.
So he probably does that. I
Just
hired him,
starts
I can
up
ask
there.
him.
I'm just curious.
Mark, what needs to be done? What physically needs to be done?
I mean, the road needs obviously some pothole patching, crack sealing, and probably a surface coat to go over the top of that,
No,
once
it
you're
needs
done.
more
So
than-
you need to-
it should be ground, because you just patch it, you're gonna have the same thing in another year. It's gotta be dug out to a certain extent, then put
Well-
a nice layer of asphalt on it.
I mean, obviously digging the road down and rebuilding it
It's too much.
is ultimate, but all of Penfield Road needs that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Every road needs it.
every road, yes, once you have cracks on a road, once you top it, surface it, basically you buy more time
Yeah.
by doing that, but
There's an
obviously
ideal condition and there's a maintenance
all of
condition.
Penfield
Yeah,
Road needs to be
Meet
dug
the
down and
maintenance
rebuilt. There's a lot of
requirements.
issues
Yep.
with it further down. There's some concrete bollards out there. I don't think they're doing much at this point.
No, they're out at angles like this.
Well, but the gaps between them you could drive through
Sure,
anyway, so they're
yeah.
not acting as bollards even if they were standing straight up.
Yeah.
Were they actually in there as ballards, or were they actually in there as what I'll call right-of-way markers, or some type of state monument markers?
Could have been a delineator.
Looks like George Washington might have put them in there.
Yeah, I mean, but if you think about, if you think about how the road had gone, Ken, and extended up through, at one point, they may have been, the state, highway markers,
Yeah.
and not
Right.
necessarily, what I'll call guardrails or
yeah.
guide rails
Yeah,
or
in fact.
ballards or anything like that.
That's a good point, because they look, as you said, too far apart. They're farther apart than guardrails would be.
Yeah,
Right,
they're
yeah,
not affected
absolutely.
as the guardrail even
Well,
if
and
that
not
was.
only that, but they're on the wrong side of the ditch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You gotta go
I'm
through
guessing
the
they were
ditch before
probably
you get
more, when they were designing and laying out 441, there may have been markers, and, who knows, Ed Summerhays could probably, based on some basic work he's done, he could probably tell us if, one, if they were markers, and two, I'm guessing because of the movement that's been there, that there's probably not a lot of value in them.
He did have.
Other than, I mean, personally, unless there was some problem doing it, personally, I'd like to see them out, because I think they're more of a hazard in than they are out, because, it's not a big ravine. If you hit one of them, you're gonna probably do more damage than if you were just to roll into the ditch, so.
Mark, have you done any preliminary estimates of what it would cost to bring that area of the road up to spec?
I have not. I kind of bring it to this group first, see what the thoughts were. We can get Ronnie and his
I'd
crew
like
out
to
there.
know what that is.
Evaluate what they think, the road would need. I know Tony's already been talking to Ronnie and his crew about what the rest of the road needs, so they may have already done some assessment on the upper pieces of it. It's called the upper piece of Penfield Road, and then evaluate this piece at the same time. If it could be done in a combo with those.
That's a good idea.
Obviously there's some cost efficiencies with doing that as a package.
So then I'd like to throw a hypothetical out. If the town were to pursue the maintenance, or at least to get it up to spec, would you be more inclined to then take it over long-term?
Well, it's funny, because as we talked, I said, gee, if you're gonna turn it over to us, you have to turn over a decent road.
Right.
But even then, I'm not sure we could maintain it properly because of where we are financially. But I have to also tell you that when planning our future, we have to look at like 10-year windows, not beyond that, because I don't know if we're going to exist 10 years from now, based upon the age of our members. Okay? So I'm thinking in a 10-year window, we might be able to work that, okay? But I don't really know. He would have no more about
Or
it.
as property owners, whether it's advantageous for you to take it over in the event that down the road you're going to be selling it to someone, whether that would be, you know,
Yeah, somebody offers $5 million
marketable.
for building it, we're out of there.
Commander, no disrespect, you might take two.
Yeah, right, it's in Mr. Andrews' house.
Now, you know, I'd like to address that question. I would think that if that road would be gotten into a fairly decent condition, because we're right now looking at, we have to, from time to time, seal the drive, or the parking
Parking
lot.
lot.
You know, it's maintenance, we have to keep that up for people to come in and rent the facility. So, you know, once it's brought up to
Oh, we would
snuff,
just seal,
yeah,
continue on down.
yeah, just,
If it was done, all right. Yeah, if it was done up to snuff, great.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll have Mark take a look at the
Yeah,
numbers.
and I think one of the other things that I think we should take a look at or think about, and certainly elevations, but, you know, as you say, you come down here, so this is my estimation, 80% of the people that are turning in here are probably coming down this way to turn in. The other 20% are coming up this way. And so as we were to look at this, and because this pavement is in such rough shape, could we take this drive out here and maybe come in at a T intersection?
That's a very good idea.
Because then there's less pavement that has to be maintained.
But you
and
can't
it
see
makes
the
it a
third
lot-
dimension of the hill there.
Well, I
challenge.
understand, you know, I'm
Yeah.
looking at the
the most complaints we get from the older veterans is not getting in, it's getting
getting
out.
out. Right.
You know, they get to this point and they can't see.
Right.
Traffic coming down that hill, so.
And
There may be a what I'll call a sweet spot in here
Right.
where, you know.
We might need a European mirror there too.
Hey, a roundabout, that's what we
When they're coming
need.
to the meetings, have to go down beyond, go to a parking lot down there, turn around, come back, come in, because they don't want to make that sharp turn. So they go down a little farther, turn around, and then come in.
Right.
But when they're going out, there's only one way they can go out. It's a bad way.
One thing I didn't mention that should tell you the importance is, we are the emergency housing for the Penfield Place Senior Living. If they had an emergency over there, they are to bring them into ours. And that might be very difficult negotiating, especially with people who are very disabled, trying to bring them in there.
Well, Tony, I think that both you and Rob bring up some excellent points in this, and I think that we should have Mark and Ronnie take a look, maybe drop a couple estimates, and then regroup.
And some
at this
options,
point.
you know, based
Yeah.
upon some of the
Yeah,
suggestions.
I think that makes some sense, so that we can, you know, take a look, you know, because if we're going to do any work in that area, let's
Do it right.
Let's see if we can do it where we get, you know, better
Yeah.
visibility, you know, better connection, you know, maybe, you know, again, I recognize that you're coming down that hill, Jerry, that you're coming down that hill, but there may be a sweet point that's a little bit, you know, further, you know, to the east and the south than what's there now. But definitely a T intersection gives you
Right.
the ability to come up for a stop. You look both ways,
Right.
you know, before you're pulling out. Similar to what happens when you come out of Knowlton, Jenny Knowlton's funeral home. Okay, we'll keep this on the agenda. We'll use Mark as our point person. Give us a handful of weeks. I know that these guys, I've got these two gentlemen here pretty immersed in a couple of big projects that we're trying to bring to a closure by the end of the month.
Commander's going to be
But-
immersed on an airplane
Yeah, I'm
pretty
going to be
soon.
busy for a week or so.
Yeah, okay. So what we'll do is, you know, give us 2-3 weeks so that we can maybe explore a couple of options, and then sit back down and talk about what the logistics might be and how that might work. We'll have a sense on some costs as well, so that.
And you would
we
let
can-
us know when we would meet again?
Yep, absolutely. In fact, we would set a time to bring you back in, Ken, and you know, get the 2 or 3 of you back and sit down and at least give us an opportunity to take a look. As Mark mentioned, I'd been having some broader conversations with our Director of Public Works about some other aspects of this road that's in pretty rough shape as you travel through that we're going to have to take a look at, so.
Well, thanks for
Okay,
hearing us.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely, thank you, thanks for
Could
coming in.
I make one statement before we end up? Once a year, we have a fundraiser, and we like him and I put out signs. Every year we have signs missing because they say they aren't right. Could there be a possibility that we could put them out for 10 days and they leave them there? That's our only fundraiser.
We can work with you to.
So I
What's your
know,
name,
I know,
Jim?
I know Andy Servegas.
Somebody's picking them up on us.
But I know Andy Servegas, and we've talked about this, I know Andy Servegas, we had a situation a couple of years ago, I don't think you had a problem last year, but there was a problem a couple of years ago, and so I won't mention any names, but I think there was a little conflict between somebody here at the town and somebody from the Post, which turned into a little bit of a contest that probably didn't need to turn into. And I think we had that resolved where there was not a problem last year, to the best of my ability. And so I think we're talking about some old history, but I don't want to repeat that history, Jerry.
Right.
So I would, whoever your contact person is, we can work with you on that.
Okay, because Ken and I, it ends, we have it Friday, Saturday. Saturday afternoon, 2:30, we go out and collect all the signs right
Yep.
away. We don't leave them lay there. They're gone within an hour.
Yeah.
So we would appreciate if you could help us
So
on
who would
that.
be the point person?
Well, okay, me.
I'm business.
Jerry just said.
Nominated and voted.
Yes, okay.
All in favor?
Committee of one.
So give me the best number, if you would, Jerry, and we'll make sure that Andy Servegas, it'll be Andy Servegas that will, careful of that. So we'll do that.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely,
Appreciate it.
thanks.
Thanks for
And
coming
thank you.
in.
All right,
Thank you all very
thanks.
much, and I understand, Rob, you're the Veterans
Yes.
Liaison. I'd like to invite you to our next meeting. It's the Thursday after next. Just come down and meet the guys. I think you'd...
I'd be more than happy to.
I'll send you an email, okay?
Please do.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks, Commander.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you
Safe
all.
trip.
Bye,
Will
Jim.
do.
Good luck, and thanks for helping us.
All right. All right, we'll next move into action items, law and finance, and we'll start villas at Easthampton Phase 4. And I see Mr. Valentine has that, and I would invite the applicant to join us at the table. This map was that their map or our map?
This is our map.
Okay, great, thank you.
So we held a public hearing last week for sections 4A and B. After having a hearing, one of the major issues, concerns from the neighbors was the drainage in the area. And this board asked us Mr. Welker to meet with Mr. Cudums to talk about that, figure out what could be done, what issues could be resolved with that, and kind of come up with a plan going forward. Mr. Welker, the following day, contacted me about getting together with them, what needed to be done to resolve that. Set up an appointment yesterday, met out on the site with the Cudums on their property, walked it with them, looked at what their issues and concerns were for that. I believe he's already contacted his landscaper to go out to the site and come up with a plan on how to rectify that. I haven't had conversation with the Cudums to debrief with them on their piece of it, but I did have a quick chat with them before this, and it sounds like they're happy with that conversation and happy with how that went. I do have a letter from Mr. Welker that he submitted today detailing out his plan to get that area resolved and get that brought up to quality drainage issue. And then my brief conversation with the Cudums before this, sounds like we were agreed upon possibly setting a July 1st deadline, understanding that it's very wet right now and getting equipment in there would probably make the situation worse than better. But if they did have a deadline, then they'll seem to agree to that. I don't know if that's a good synopsis or a bad synopsis. I do have the pictures that you submitted if the board wants to see those again.
Also, I'd like to note that
Those were scanned and,
Mr. Welker and the CUDM showed up on Monday for our watershed management committee meeting, which we very much appreciate. It was kind of last minute, but it was a good timely for this subject to be on that agenda, so we appreciate that and the efforts that you put forward to rectify.
Also
this
gave us the
problem.
time to talk and meet better too. It was good, you know, so.
Exactly, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I met with his contractor yesterday, and it was interesting, without any persuasion on my part, and when he came in and looked at it, and he looked up at the berm, he says, it's because of the berm. And I think I mentioned that earlier, that the berm was what caused the problem. So I would think that anytime a berm is proposed, where does the town come in on determining how that berm affects adjoining properties? I mean, it seemed like they missed the boat on this one, that we ended up with a big puddle.
I think
And,
concessions were made to install drainage, whether it was installed properly or not, and whether it was properly graded or not. I think there was accommodations for drainage in the area.
I think it was a combination of everything there. I don't think the drainage was put in properly, it wasn't graded properly, they just walked away from it, and I didn't have much persuasion with the former town engineer like we have now. And I want to say that I thank Mr. Welker for the cooperation that he's given us, getting his contractor out there right away and proposing a fix for it, and I think we agreed by July 1st it should be done. It's too wet now, obviously.
Sure, understand.
And, so I'm looking forward to getting drive where I think his contractor's name is Scott
Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will say, Mr. Kudums, that, you know, I know that Mr. Welker, you know, picked up this, you know, particular project and has been before this board a few different times to talk about this project. And this board has found him, you know, certainly to be very responsive to items that have come up. And I think this is another example of that, you know, he inherited a piece of this, and so what you know, what he's attempting to do is you know, to correct that, not only for, you know, for his project, but also certainly for the surrounding neighbors for that. So
I think I said the same thing to him. I didn't like coming down on him because, you know, it's not his fault, but he bought it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep, and I think
so I have
he's-
to look to him to fix it.
So, okay. So it sounds like at least through the discussion, I know you know, PRC has also reviewed this as well. If I'm not mistaken, Mark. Any additional input from that end of things?
Talk about PRC, we'd also talked about it with the watershed committee on Monday. The piping is there, the catch basins are there. I think just the implementation of it, you know, when it was put in, whether the catch basins were, you know, installed too high, or it doesn't sound like the final grading was done to properly drain the area. But the infrastructure is there in order to facilitate the drainage out of there. So I think the watershed committee was kind of in agreement that Mr. Welker, you know, is on board with going back in, doing some grading in there, you know, working that. They should be able to solve the problem. It sounds like, you know, they've gotten together and have come to an amicable time frame and solution to make that happen.
Okay.
We can, you know, keep in contact with them about it, go out there when it's happening, you know, inspect that work and make sure that happens properly.
I said we're not gonna go on his lawn until he says it's okay, because I don't wanna be too wet.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
You have to get past her.
Go to the real boss.
Yeah. You go to Jane.
Yeah, gotta go to the real boss. So, okay. Anything else that we should be aware of, either from the staff end or Mr. Kudums, or from the developer side? Anything more
I
we
think
should?
that, I mean, that was the major issue was the drainage, and then also the future drainage. They've also, you know, we requested some additional drains. They've offered to put those in, which I think will help, you know, the other road goes in the back to make sure that the same issue doesn't happen on the other
Yes.
end. Their engineer provided responses back. I sent those to the board, I believe, late yesterday, early this morning, with the responses to the comments, and I believe they agreed to all the comments, concerns that PRC had.
Okay, all right, all right.
Is there a timeline when we might think of having our final approval for the next phase, or?
So that's that next part of that conversation that this board will have. So you may be a great straight person. So we'll tee that up next.
Okay.
We did hold a public hearing last Wednesday, and so this was really the only what I would call the only issue that was brought up at that public hearing. So I would just ask staff, Valentine, Costello, is there anything that we should be aware of that you know, as part of the discussion that we had last Wednesday, and then part of the discussion from PRC?
Unfortunately, I missed last Wednesday's meeting, and it's probably the first time I've done that, and I apologize, but other than Mr. and Mrs. Kudum's issue, the only other issue was I had met with some neighbors directly across from the development, and I know Mark was responsible enough to actually meet at their house with them as well. They were looking for some minor landscaping between them and the new development, their new phase of development. I think it was 3 or 4 trees.
There was like 3 trees that Jay Wavington put in by their townhouse, and so I met with them, and the minute that Scott's over there doing the new building, he's gonna put the 3 trees in, so, you know.
Okay.
And they called me back to let me know that they'd like to thank Mark for his responsiveness because he did contact them the same day they found out about it. So
Okay,
he's willing to take care of that landscaping issue, and that's the only other issue I have on the project.
okay, great. So that being the case, board, based on what we heard at public hearing discussion tonight, next step?
I'm okay moving forward. I don't have any other concerns other than the drainage issue that was brought to us at Wednesday's
Okay,
meeting.
all right. So we'll look for staff to draft a resolution for our review, and then that resolution would be before us next Wednesday, a week from today, for the final approval, which would include the discussion we had here about drainage and the 3 trees for that one neighbor, and then what I would call, the normal standard language that we have as part of our resolutions.
So we
Okay.
include these drainage repairs, so to speak, as conditions of approval.
Right.
As well as the landscaping.
Yep.
Okay, so, Mark, you've got the ball to put that together, and for the board to review it by Friday of this week. Okay. Any other discussion, board?
No.
Any other discussion, staff? Developer or neighbors? Any other discussion? Anything to put on the table? Okay. And we'll have the resolution before the board next Wednesday.
Thank you.
All right? Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Try to stay as dry as you can on the way home. Okay, thank you very much, staff. Brings us to our next item. I think it's the one and the only Chris Bilo. Oh, excuse me, LaSalle's Landing, I apologize. I'm just getting,
Jess isn't here.
sorry, but at least you're on notice.
I'd like to call
Thank
a
you.
recess before Bilo speaks.
I think it might be past his bedtime. So, yes, thank you for that. Our next item is the LaSalle's Landing development for the garages associated with Building 9 for the townhomes. Public hearing last Wednesday. No one came to speak for or against the particular project. I would ask staff any additional comments, input that have come in since the public hearing. Okay. Any comments, feedback back from PRC?
PRC actually had no comments on this application. It was no additional impact to impervious areas. It was installing garages over top of what was the previously planned parking lot. We took a look at the buildings. They seem to be in keeping with the architectural design of the rest of the development. They appeared
nautical
attractive,
theme.
followed the nautical theme that this board had instituted earlier on.
Rob did
so-
that by proxy.
They take away the perception of islands of asphalt everywhere.
Yes,
So it'd be
yeah,
nice.
breaks it up.
Okay.
I've got no other concerns.
If everybody's comfortable, then
Yeah.
we'll be looking for a resolution again for this Friday and present it to the full board for next Wednesday.
Very good.
Right.
All right, you want to take a brief
Yeah, I would like to, I'd like to take an hour recess if I can.
All right, the one and the only, the person that we can have a lot of fun with, Mr. Bilo, our Recreation Director, back rested in great color from spending how many days with how many of your ladies?
There was 5 women and myself and my son.
So, all right. The women rule the world, just as long as you never forget that.
That's correct.
All right, we'll tee up smoke-free policy for town facilities. I know the board received copies of materials Anna forwarded that Chris had sent in, and the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, let me just give a little bit of history on how this started. Back in January, Ronnie Williams and myself met with the Smoking, let me get their actual name correct here, called the Smoking and Health Action Coalition of Monroe County. For those of you that are familiar, they just helped create the policy with the city of Rochester going smoke-free at their parks within the city. So with our emphasis on wellness within the community, we thought maybe this was something to sort of look at and address and, kind of key in on is this something that we could do? So we met with them in January. They're very supportive, very much willing to work with us in regards to kind of working us through the process, assisting with communication, sort of, making sure that we go through the steps necessary if this is something that the town decides to do, that we've done everything sort of, diligently and spread the word and gotten the communication out. So we did that in January. The first thing that we discussed about doing was sort of get a feel for where user groups or the primary user groups of especially the athletic fields, the town parks are. So we thought it made a lot of sense that as we go through our annual meeting with each one of the youth sports groups, we meet annually with Little League, lacrosse, baseball, soccer. So we meet with those organizations, sort of plan out the year, make sure everything is, on the up and up in regards to schedules, field needs, those things. This year we added in talking about policies that those organizations currently have that we could, look to sort of work off from. It was interesting, none of them really had anything specific to no smoking. There was some general sort of what I'll say policies, especially like Little League where it falls underneath their main charter through Williamsport. Same thing with Rangers and Strikers through RDYSL where there is some language around smoking, but it's general around that activity. So, as an example, if they're at the Bachman Field, they can't be smoking while they're at the Bachman Field, but doesn't prohibit them from smoking when they're over by their car in the parking lot. So our thought was some of that language is already being sort of enforced through our user groups, so we can just expand on that and look to make it throughout the entire park. So after we met, I had a follow-up meeting with the Smoking Coalition. The thought was, since there's already some familiarity to a no smoking policy within those groups, now we look to the general public, to our residents, and say, how do you feel about this? So the easy way to do that is through a survey. And have some sort of a survey tool that we can administer where people can give us their feedback and give us some sort of an idea of, is there support within the community for it. So the way I like to do things, I don't like to make it real difficult or lengthy or hard to, comprehend. I put together a very quick survey. I think it was 3 questions. Utilized the online tool of SurveyMonkey, who we've used for several surveys in the past. It would be easy to administer, it'd be easy to be able to promote electronically. through the town website, through the rec website, through Facebook, through all the different media options we have, be able to promote it, give a window of time where that survey is open for the feedback. Everybody has a copy of it. That was just, again, a very brief sample. I did share that with the Smoking Coalition, and they said that's about as direct and as straightforward a survey as you're going to get. Rather than get real lengthy and get into, a lot more, different, or a lot of different options, kept it rather brief and more or less, do you believe that there's a need for, a no smoking policy within parks? The way it's written right now, we've included parks, athletic fields, playgrounds, trails, and entrances to town facilities.
When you
There-
reference, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just was kind of looking through the draft resolution, and it talks about facilities a lot. And the last line of the resolution is where you actually define in some way, I think, what a facility is. On face value, facility to me is like a bricks and mortar kind of structure. So we may want to just expand upon, or maybe bring that into light a little bit quicker or a little bit easier into either the survey. I didn't look at the survey questions that closely, but maybe the survey questions, or in the letter, if there's the letter that Tony drafted, that again sort of brings out, it's not a facility necessarily, it's an outdoor, it has boundaries. So
Yep.
whether it's like you just defined,
Open air?
open air, because I think at this point, most people are aware that you cannot smoke in a public facility or a
Within,
public building.
correct.
So, again, I understand after reading it what a recreational facility is, but if you're standing at the amphitheater, for example, it may not necessarily connect with the general public. So I just want to make sure that we're defining it appropriately.
In the survey, the first question does list out, and it breaks out outdoor sports fields, athletic fields, town parks, entryways to facilities, enclosed lodges, open pavilions, walking, hiking trails. So it does get a little bit specific within the survey. So maybe, and truthfully, Rob, if this is what you were referencing.
That's what I looked at.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I'm telling you, I threw this together looking at a couple of the different policies that I did get from the Smoking Coalition.
Okay.
I threw it together in
All right.
12 minutes.
Well, then I would just say, if we proceed, then to definitely
This will
clear that up.
definitely be changed, but what I wanted to do, and that I can talk about that now, is I wanted to draft it along the line of a policy versus an ordinance. I didn't want to get to where it was something very specific in regards to what the repercussions were going to be if they were caught smoking. So this being a general smoking policy of saying you can't smoke on town property. If you're caught, we're not going to throw you in handcuffs and take you away. It's a policy that we're going to ask you to stop, and or to go to your vehicle and do it in that area. So I think this still has a lot of work to be done.
Okay.
I just wanted to put together something very simple that at least you could see that's the sort of direction that we were going.
How does the school district police their grounds? Do they have a policy in place, or
They
is
do.
it- They do.
Theirs is very similar. It's a policy. It's no smoking once you step on school grounds. And from a monitoring standpoint, very similar to how this is, it's dedicated to the staff. It's not that there is this specific role person that is responsible for.
Are there any signs? Do the school district
Yeah.
have signs? Yeah.
Yep, well, especially when you get to like the athletic fields, to the turf.
So,
You may ask the same question I was going to ask.
well, I just since we're talking about that, so in your experience, when there's a high school football game or an event at the stadium there, or even a baseball game, and someone is a smoker and wants to smoke, what do they do? Where do they go on school property if
They go-
there's a policy?
They go into their vehicle.
Into their vehicle?
That's the only way, is if they're enclosed in their vehicle.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
That, similar to what, I was going to ask, what about town employees who work in town buildings who want to step outside for a smoke? They would have to go to their vehicle now?
If that's what we decide.
If that's what we decide.
Okay.
I mean, we can always look at, say, that there is I hate to use this word, a smoking square, there's a smoking area that, that is designated.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what's up for discussion, is how do we sort of define where, if
How do you
we're gonna,
manage 'em?
if we're gonna manipulate the entrance ways to, you know, to the facilities.
Yeah, the worst thing is walking in an entrance and everybody's smoking there, and then
It's-
people that don't smoke have to put up with that.
It's funny that you say that, Linda. Today, as I was leaving the community center to come up here for a meeting this morning, I walked out the door, and as I was walking out the door, there was somebody who was standing in that windbreak. He was smoking there, and he was standing in the corner to avoid the rain. And as he was doing it, a woman was pushing her stroller in to come in for open gym. And as they came through, and as I was walking out, it was a pile of smoke.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, again, for our facility, it just doesn't fit, is the
No.
right way I keep describing it. It doesn't fit. So that's the reason why we said, you know, I added the entryways to the facilities.
No, I like that.
It is interesting, I did get off, I thought I printed, yeah, I did. I did get off the website when we met with Cassie from the Smoking Coalition. They did do and I didn't print the whole thing because it's 70 some odd pages. They did in 2014 a community tobacco survey for Monroe County. And there were a number of different things. This was an expansive survey, that's why I laughed when I created the one that I did. But there was an area that they do talk about outdoor locations within Monroe County. And the interesting part that I did pull from it is it said that 74% of all respondents supporting either restricting or completely eliminating cigarette smoking within Monroe County parks. So I thought that was very interesting as well. So showed from a county standpoint that there was a high percentage. And it actually went as far as to talk and break it out by smokers and non-smokers. And even non-smokers, to restrict or eliminate for around playgrounds for smokers was 82% felt that they should be restricted, 70% from entryways to buildings, and 57% for public parks, and that's coming from smokers directly. So it obviously, to me, showed that there's already some support within Monroe County, let alone just within Penfield.
Have you had any conversations with Dick regarding
I have not.
potential language or potential?
That would be my next step, is once we sort of,
I think the survey seems to be on the front burner.
yeah, and that'll give us some direction. And truthfully, Rob, too, my other thought was, when Ronnie and I met in January, the thought was, these are the kind of things that can take a year, 2 years, down the road to create a policy. I know when I talked with Tony in one of my meetings, I said, I really don't know that we need to take that length of time. What I'd like to do first is gather that feedback, get some sort of consensus from the board of, this is what we want to do, then work with Dick and say, are we, what are we looking at here from a potential pitfall to make sure we're all
Sounds like a
set?
good plan.
I think the survey is important in order for us to make appropriate findings if we go down that
Yeah.
route, that we have some sort of history there by which we're basing some change in policy.
Absolutely.
And what I think Chris attempted to do, very quickly, and he said, I can do the lifting with parceling and piecing, things out, and then, we can then make it look pretty and do the wordsmithing with, Phyllis, and then Dick can, take a look at the legal piece as we move forward with it. But at least, it gives a starting place. So I think your point, Paula, the survey certainly, that gives us some good basis. And then from there, start to perhaps, up whatever that policy ultimately looks like, and what the board, wants to support by way of, actual locations. I mean, I'm not sure we're at a point of saying, within Veterans Memorial Park, if you want to smoke, you have to go out, in the right of way of Atlantic Avenue or the right of way of Jackson Road. But, we may want to say, you need to be, if it's your car, or you need to be at least, 50 feet away from an entrance. I mean, whatever that is, so that,
When I met with the youth sports groups, all of them said the same thing, and it was the same message throughout each one of the organizations, that they've never had an issue with people when somebody is smoking at a baseball game, and somebody says, hey, this is it's a kid's baseball game. Can you go over? nobody's ever had an issue with them going to their car or at least away from the complex to enough where they're sort of by themselves, so.
Well, I would agree with you, Chris, and I anticipate that the survey is probably going to yield results that would lean towards health and, health and wellness. But I think my concern is that common sense right now is prevailing, and it seems to be doing a pretty good job. But once the town issues something, that's where you have blowback.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's good intentioned or not, once
Absolutely.
government makes a move, then it's a different story. So I just want to make sure that obviously we have, like Paula said, some information,
Yeah.
we have some findings before we proceed, and whether we want to carve some areas out if that's the case. But those are my concerns.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking the questions right now, so, but there'll be time later for that, I guess.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll move forward with the survey, and we'll get some results there, and we'll just, continue to, work on this and keep the board updated as we get more information and things, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's the last item on our agenda, and there being no further business before the town board for work session. This April 8th, 2015 work session is adjourned officially at 8 p.m. Thank you.